Tonight, an Atikamekw woman dies in a Quebec hospital after live streaming her nurses making racist remarks.
Kids always enjoy the food. They always have, I'm a good cook too, so that helps. But it's just really good. It's all natural.
A small Yukon farm finds ways of growing in the winter.
I go out into the community and I go door to door and see if anybody has any cats or dogs that they need fixed.
And a Cold Lake First Nation pet gets a house call from volunteer veterinarians. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. We begin tonight in Quebec, where a painful video of an Atikamekw woman in a hospital shows the nurses attending to her being rude and dismissive. The woman died shortly after posting the video live on Facebook. Tom Fenario has the details and a warning to viewers. Some of the images and language in the story may be disturbing.
Despite being in obvious distress, Joyce Atikamekw took the time to live stream this video. It turned out to be one of her last acts. The Atikamekw woman died not long after posting it. In her video, Atikamekw captured racist and dismissive behavior by her nurses at a hospital in Joliette, about an hour north of Montreal. The condemnation of the nurses' behavior was swift. The chief and council of Atikamekw First Nation is livid. How many victims do there have to be before the François Legault government reacts and recognizes that systemic racism exists in Quebec? Quebec Native women are urging Premier Legault to act. He must intervene in public services which still discriminate against Indigenous peoples in Quebec. So much so, another vulnerable woman obviously lived the last hours of her life being confronted with it. The commission in charge of improving health services for First Nations says, it's all the more disturbing to see that this form of violence is perpetrated by health professionals who we should be able to trust. Atikamekw was a mother in her mid-30s. In the video, she says in the Atikamekw language she is concerned about being given drugs that she is allergic to. This incident comes 1 year after a provincial inquiry found Indigenous people in Quebec are subjected to significant amounts of racism in the healthcare system. Quebec Indigenous Affairs Minister Sylvie Damol says an investigation is underway. Meanwhile, a vigil is being held Tuesday evening outside the hospital. Tom Fenario, APTN National News, Montreal.
Today, Quebec Premier François Legault said the nurse who could be heard in the video has been fired. To the East Coast now, where the Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs reduced the state of emergency they had declared to a, quote, state of readiness, as the Atikamekw chief continues talks with Canada. It's been over a week since confrontations between commercial fishermen and the Mi'kmaq over the launch of a moderate livelihood fishery plan. Mi'kmaq chiefs will continue to monitor the safety of the Mi'kmaq lobster harvesters and have been in contact with the RCMP. Atikamekw Chief Mike Sack met with the Government of Canada and called for a meeting with the Premier. Sack said he is making progress.
It's part of our peace and friendship treaty. We're not here to fight with anyone. We're here to do what we feel is right, and I'm glad that the confrontations are over and hopefully they're completely done with, and we can mend those relationships.
The Premier of Nova Scotia is promising fundamental changes to policing and the justice system in that province. Stephen McNeil issued an apology today to Black and Indigenous Nova Scotians for the way they've been treated. He says racist institutions have let them down.
Our system of justice, from policing to courts to corrections, have failed many members of our Black community. A system that is supposed to keep you safe, but because of the color of your skin, you fear it. Today, I say enough. I want you to know I hear you, I see you, I believe you, and I am sorry.
McNeil is promising a restorative process to transform public safety. A team of community members and officials with the government and police forces will fan out across the province to listen to ideas over the next 12 to 18 months. A decision to shut down or keep open 18 open net fish farms in British Columbia was supposed to be made by the end of the month. But now the Department of Fisheries and Oceans says the Discovery Island farms present little risk to wild Fraser River salmon stocks, and they will be holding more consultations about the farms. Tina House joins us from Vancouver with the latest.
We're here in North Vancouver at the fish hatchery along the Capilano River, and joining me today is Bob Chamberlain, a former vice president of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs and a longtime advocate for wild salmon. Mr. Chamberlain, what are your thoughts on the DFO saying yesterday that it's okay to keep the open net fish farms in open water in the Discovery Islands?
I'm absolutely disgusted in the Department of Fisheries and Ocean and their announcement yesterday. It's not implementing Recommendation 19 of the Cohen Commission. All it is doing is signaling they're going to do what they would be required to do anyways, which is consult First Nations. Now you'll notice that there's an absence of talk or commentary about sea lice. This doesn't surprise me at all. There is a mountain of data, a mountain of science on sea lice. 3 average on the fish farm is what triggers the regulatory structure to treat the farm. Well, when you have close to 1 million fish on every farm, that's a heck of a lot of sea lice larvae being produced into the waters that our juvenile salmon must migrate through. DFO is in a conflict of interest. I absolutely agree with Justice Cohen that they have lost sight of their primary responsibility to the environment and the wild salmon stocks of British Columbia. Now, we have to understand that 102 First Nations in BC have supported the transition to land-based closed containment. And this is because salmon is so vital to our people. We have constitutionally protected Aboriginal rights, and the Department of Fisheries and Oceans chooses to ignore this.
Thank you. Back to you in studio.
To Nunavut, where a very broad description in the case of mistaken identity led to 4 Iqaluit RCMP pulling rifles on a 23-year-old Inuk man on Saturday. That's Atikamekw Montague you see face down on the ground. Iqaluit RCMP were looking for a man who had been spotted half a kilometer away and was allegedly pointing a rifle at people. It wasn't Montague, and he was released without charge. The description they were chasing? A person wearing camouflage with a rifle. As Nunavut's Justice Minister points out, that is a very common outfit in Nunavut.
I'm discouraged myself. We have a lot of Inuit who go out hunting. There is that possibility that some Inuit will be going out walking with their rifles to either get to their vehicles or to try to go where they want to go to do their hunting. And I was saddened to hear that this had happened. I think the RCMP should take into consideration that you're in the north. You're going to see people walking around with guns.
You can find much more on that story over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Time for a quick break, but as we head to the break, here's a look at a story we're working on.
I'm Sarah Connors, and coming up on APTN National News, we visit a farm that's nourishing a Yukon First Nation and also encouraging well-being through agriculture.
People staying in their community, being productive, having hope, being a part of a team effort, and then having good food, which helps people just be more healthy in their mind and bodies.
That story coming up on APTN National News.
Here's a look at Wednesday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. 25 for Charlottetown, 23 and showers in St. John's. 8 with rain in Kuujjuaq, 19 and showers for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Showers in 15 for Montreal, Quebec City, and Saguenay. 17 with rain in Ottawa, 12 and showers in Sault Ste. Marie. More rain and 13 for Thunder Bay, 11 with showers for Sioux Lookout. 2 with rain in Churchill, 11 and rain in God's Lake. 12 with showers for Winnipeg, 13 and rain in Dauphin. Sunny and 13 for Regina, Swift Current, and Estevan. 6 with showers in Uranium City, 8 and rain in La Ronge. Welcome back. With food security becoming an ever-growing problem in northern Canada, many northern First Nations are exploring different ways to produce food for their communities. As Sarah Connors tells us, a small farm in the Yukon has found a unique way to tackle winter growing, while also providing hope and opportunities for the First Nation that owns it.
This small working farm in Dawson is doing some big things, like feeding a First Nation in the Yukon. The Atikamekw Teaching and Working Farm is a community farm focused on sourcing fresh produce, meat, and eggs in a sustainable way. Each year, it produces 70 boxes of food for Dawson residents and 75 boxes twice a year free of charge for Atikamekw citizens. Farm manager Derek Hastings says he's seen how the farm is contributing to better nutrition firsthand.
I find people like that. It's they get this package and they open it up, and it's just they start to make meals based on what they receive that's fresh. So that sort of changes people's dietary habits, changes people's shopping habits.
Ryan Peterson has been getting food from the farm for 3 years. With limited access to fresh, affordable food, Peterson says the farm is a sustainable way to feed his family.
The kids always enjoy the food. They always have, I'm a good cook too, so that helps. But it's just really good. It's all natural.
Despite its success, Hastings says growing food in Dawson is challenging as the growing season is limited. By this time next year, all-season growing will be possible thanks to an extended season greenhouse. Much like a traditional greenhouse, the new structure will be much bigger and grow year-round while also offering teaching programs.
Most of it comes from California or the closest to Alberta, so that'll be unique in that way. And, you know, food security is always an issue up here because we're very reliant on the trucks.
And there's more to this farm than just food. Atikamekw citizens are encouraged to come stay at the farm for free and learn agricultural skills while earning a small income in the process. Hastings says this is especially helpful for those struggling with housing instability and addiction, allowing them to reconnect with tradition, save money, and eventually re-enter the workforce.
How's it going here?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
People staying in their community, being productive, having hope, being a part of a team effort, and then having good food, which helps people just be more healthy in their mind and bodies.
Eventually, programs will also be in place for Atikamekw youth to learn life lessons through farming.
I see in the future this really being a way for the youth to establish themselves early in life, between 12 and 18, establish important skill sets and understandings of agriculture and understanding of work ethic. And so that'll lend to a preventative measure to a lot of the problems facing the First Nation going forward.
So while this might just look like an ordinary farm, for many people it's a place where lessons can be learned well past the growing season.
We tend to want to engage with all types of citizens and give people opportunities and allow them to gather hope from the project, you know, like a perspective that sort of lends to like a continuity, season to season, year to year.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Dawson City.
Earlier this summer, the Ontario government passed Bill 197, a COVID-19 recovery bill. But now a group of First Nations are taking the province of Ontario to court to quash changes that bill made to the environmental assessment process. Grand Chief Joel Abram is with the Association of Iroquois and Allied Indians, one of the plaintiffs in the case. Grand Chief Abram, thanks for taking some time for us here today. Could you explain to us what changes to the Environmental Assessment Act were made that concern your party?
Well, one of the main concerns is that they rolled up the changes to the Environmental Assessment Act in Bill 197. It was introduced on July 8th, passed on July 21st, and there was no consultation whatsoever on this bill. So the effect of what that does is that it, you know, in the past, all projects automatically required an environmental assessment, and now that is stripped basically. So it leaves the environment and all the First Nations that depend on it vulnerable to a government that can just do what they want at their political whim. So that's very concerning to us.
What do you see as the implications because of those changes for First Nations?
The implication is it removes the duty of the government to consult and accommodate with First Nations on projects, regarding forestry or regarding any other kind of project that the government wants to push through. In fact, even the legislation itself failed to meet that duty to consult and accommodate.
Premier Ford had said the changes to the Act were necessary to speed up the province's economic recovery from COVID-19. How would you like to see the economic recovery approached?
I understand that, that COVID necessitates some things, but not at the expense of the rights of First Nation Indigenous people. And the changes are going to be coming in stages anyway, and some of them may not, come into effect for quite some time. So, there wasn't really the necessity of ramming this through within an omnibus bill. There was still a chance, and the duty actually an obligation to do the necessary consultation and accommodation and free, prior, and informed consent, as a matter of fact, with First Nations.
What implications do you think this has, if any, in regards to treaty rights?
It has a very negative impact because if, Ontario gets away with this, then other provinces may do this. And so that's why we've filed the judicial review of this bill, just because of that fact.
Grand Chief Abram, we'll have to leave it there, but appreciate you taking some time for us.
All right, thank you very much.
The Williams Lake First Nation and the Government of British Columbia signed a new agreement to distribute cannabis. The agreement is the first of its kind in BC and will allow the band to open stores across the province. BC announced the deal under the Cannabis Control and Licensing Act last week. It allows the Williams Lake First Nation to participate in the growing industry while following government guidelines and laws. According to the chief, Willie Sellers, the agreement will help create jobs and add diversity to BC's cannabis industry.
In some communities, it could be a controversial topic of discussion. With ours, it was very supportive. We do feel that it is a medicine. There's an opportunity for job creation. There's an opportunity to create additional revenue streams. And what we're going to be able to do with that revenue that's going to be coming in around cannabis is going to be pretty special too.
1 week from tonight, we'll kick off the 7th season of Face to Face. Our first guest is Anishinaabe broadcaster Jesse Wente, who recently was appointed the chair of the Canada Council for the Arts. Wente has also been a longtime critic of the media and advocate for greater diversity.
Representation on screen or behind the microphone or in the pages is very good. But the truth is, while we've made great strides in Canadian media for on-screen or on-air representation, the behind the scenes, the executive teams, the CEOs, the board of directors, the senior editorial positions are still not very diverse at all.
Here's a look at the rest of Wednesday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. 8 with showers in Fort Chipewyan, sunny and 15 in Grand Prairie. Sunny and 15 in Edmonton, 16 for Lethbridge. Sun's out on the west coast, 20 in Vancouver, 26 in Penticton. 13 and sunny for Fort Nelson, Smoky, and 16 in Prince George. 6 in Old Crow, 14 with showers in Whitehorse. 8 in Yellowknife, 11 in Norman Wells. Showers and +3 for Sax Harbor, 6 in Colville Lake. -1 in Nauyot, 2 in Chesterfield. 0 in Kingite, -2 in Arctic Bay. Welcome back. A vet clinic that spays and neuters cats and dogs visited the Cold Lake First Nation this past weekend. Organizers say the program helps control the pet population. Chris Stewart visited the clinic in action.
Dogs and cats are arriving at this temporary animal hospital on the Cold Lake First Nation. A drive-through has been set up. Residents can drop off their dogs and cats to have the animals spayed or neutered for a donation. Veterinarian volunteers also vaccinate check for parasites, and tattoo an ID to make the pets easy to find if they are lost. RJ Baylott is the Executive Director of the Canadian Animal Task Force, a Calgary-based charity. The task force goes to communities that ask for help in controlling the pet population. They have been to 21 First Nations in Alberta in their 15-year history. Baylott says the program could not work without the many passionate volunteers.
So we have over 400 volunteers that help us out, and they travel throughout the province to support the communities and help with their animals. They're 3-day long clinics, so people are leaving their families or leaving home because they see the importance of doing these types of clinics. They see the impact it has in the community.
Volunteers like Kelsey Schooler. I rode with Kelsey while she picked up and dropped off some animals.
I go out into the community and I go door to door and see if anybody has any cats or dogs that they need fixed. At which point, if they do, I sign them up and I bring them into where we are set up for our vets to assess them and go through surgery.
The 3-day clinic here was able to spay, neuter, vaccinate, check for parasites, and tattoo 185 animals. They were also able to rehome 80 dogs and cats. Since they started 15 years ago, they have spayed and neutered 16,000 cats and dogs and rehomed over 6,000. RJ Baylott says repeated clinics like these will help control the pet overpopulations, which is an issue in many communities.
It also helps the community because you help address some of the human-animal altercations. So you see less packing of dogs. You typically see fewer dog bites in the communities because the animals, again, are sticking around home more often, and there is fewer animals that are free roaming.
Due to COVID, this was the only clinic held this year. They say they plan to be back up to full speed next spring. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Cold Lake, First Nations.
Tomorrow is Orange Shirt Day, and every year since 2013, people around the world are asked to wear orange to raise awareness about residential schools and reconciliation. Here's Daryl Stranger now with a preview of what's to come.
Orange Shirt Day is a legacy of the St. Joseph Mission Residential School Commemoration Project, which took place in Williams Lake, BC back in 2013. Now, the events held there were designed to commemorate the residential school experience and honor the healing journey of the survivors and their families. The date, September the 30th, was chosen as that was the time of year that children were taken from their homes to residential schools. It's also an opportunity to set the stage for anti-racism and anti-bullying policies for the coming school year. The orange shirt theme was first chosen after former student Phyllis Webstad shared her story of her first time at a residential school with her shiny new orange shirt. It was bought by her grandmother and was taken from her when she was 6 years old. APTN National News will speak with Ry Moran, the director of the TRC, tomorrow about a virtual reconciliation event being held that will coincide with Orange Shirt Day. I will also speak with Patrick Hunter, who designed the shirt I'm wearing for Rogers Media. The proceeds from shirts like this will be going towards the Orange Shirt Society. APTN National News will have those stories and more tomorrow.
Thanks, Daryl, and there's lots of special coverage here on APTN tomorrow. That's your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For more on these and other stories, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night.